going to talk about tonight is building your UCLA network. And it's something that's it's a very, very popular topic among all of our alumni. And we're very privileged to have three very, very special alumni. Although not everybody is an alumna, but she's part of the Bruin family, and we'll get to that. But first and foremost, I want to welcome all of those Bruins from all over the globe. This is a way that UCLA Alumni Affairs is really trying to actively engage our alumni, bring UCLA to you versus you having to come to campus and worry about parking. Which I know is something that every Bruin doesn't want to have to deal with. So this is a way for you not to have to park here at UCLA, but still give you some very relative content. And it's important for us and our staff here at UCLA to be able to deliver this type of this content to you. This is a pilot program that's kind of developing. We're hoping to have modules and hangouts like this next year, next academic year, probably 6 to 9 of them. We'll see. We're just developing that content right now. And so hopefully this is a very frequent occurrence. You may not have to see me every single time, but it will be something that is frequent so that we can deliver career programming to our alumni so that you guys can definitely benefit out there in the career world. So our topic is networking. Like I said, very, very popular topic. How to build that UCLA network is very important. And believe it or not, it really does exist. You may not hear that it exists, but we know it does. We hear of it happening all the time. And again, with our speakers, we'll definitely talk about the fact that how to use it and the fact that how they've been able to use it and leverage their kind of UCLA network to be successful. So the way the program is going to go, I'm going to do a short intro of the three speakers. I'm going to be moderating kind of the flow of things, and once the speakers I give that short background, then I'll hand it off to our moderators, and they'll go about 5 to 7 minutes, talk about their topics within networking, and then we'll have question and answer and open it up to everybody so that we can make sure that we answer your questions in the time that's allotted. So right now we have Dustin, who is a 2008 grad. We have Jen Chow Bevan, who's actually kind of a career coach and on her own, and she'll talk a little bit about that, but she's doing great things as the founder of Path Relaunch, but she's also, like I said, part of the UCLA family as being a career coach from UCLA Anderson, and she's done great things with a lot of our MBAs, as well as Michael Jedlicka, who's a 1978 grad, who actually gave me the okay to say that he was a 1978 grad, and has done really cool things. Not only is he an unbelievable mentor here on campus and has mentored for the last 30 years students, he's a UCLA board member, current UCLA board member, alumni board member, and is also the vice president of technology at Disney. So let me hand it off to our speakers. They'll do their introductions, get into their topic, and we'll go from there. Okay, so Dustin, go ahead, and it's all yours.
Sure, thanks, Nick. So, as Nick said, I graduated in 2008. I was a psychology major and jumped into the health insurance world straight out of college. I first started working for HealthNet, which is one of the biggest health insurance companies here in California, and now currently work for United Agencies Insurance as an employee benefits advisor. So I'm a health insurance broker that works with small businesses on their benefits package. But that's the day job, if you will. What I do in my spare time is I'm a co-founder of the UCLA Young Alumni Professionals, or UCLA YAP for short. That's the young alumni group that is concentrated on networking and discussions like today. So what I'll try to do is give you a little background for the young alumni crowd on how to network, what really networking is, and how to begin that process, because it really is a process that you have to start with and learn as you go, to be honest. So jumping right into it, I think one thing that gets overlooked with the younger crowd is what a network really is. Networking, network, it's a buzz term that gets thrown around a lot, and sometimes we just don't know what that really means in the real world. So really, in my opinion, it's just your circle of friends and people that you know. Don't make it more complicated than it is. You have a network right now, and most of you probably just don't even realize it. One of the really easy things that I go through with to test my own network, or just kind of to analyze it, if you will, is the different groups of people I'm involved with. So your UCLA friends, the people you still keep in touch with from undergrad, or if you went to grad school at UCLA, but that also includes your high school friends, your current coworkers, your past coworkers if you're on to your second or third job at this point in your life. Also your personal friends and acquaintances that maybe you don't have a formal relationship with as far as where you met them. But all those people can also be tied into your greater network. One example of something you might not realize, a lot of people play in kickball leagues or different sports leagues, or you're part of a book club, that's part of your network too. And I think the real intimidation factor for young alumni is translating those friends and those contacts into professional contacts. I think we view it as very awkward, and it's not really awkward. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. So what I would say is first figure out who's in your network and then go from there. It doesn't have to be a formal or rigid thing. The other really big point that I always get asked is, I'm a young alumni, why should I network now? I'm not the CEO of my company. There's no C in my title at all. I'm just an entry-level position, or I'm trying to climb up the ladder. What's the benefit to me of networking right now? Shouldn't I just wait until I'm in a more senior position? And the answer is you have to start now if you want to reap the rewards when you get to that more senior position. I think as millennials, we're really afraid to cross that personal and professional line, and really it's more simple than you make it out to be. A good example is helping a friend move, right? We've all helped someone move. I used to have a truck, and I was always that person that helped someone move. So if you would help someone move and they would help you move, that's probably a decent test of your friendship, and that person would probably also do you a favor in a professional sense as well. So don't be afraid to cross those lines and take people out of their buckets, because we all have jobs and we all have career goals as well. So that's a really big thing. When it comes to the advantages of networking, there are both short-term and long-term benefits. The short-term benefits can be simple and maybe not as obvious to you at first, but job opportunities, if you're looking to change careers, if you are in a current job that you don't like and maybe want to change industries, if you know people, that's going to help you get that next job. Career development within your own field. If you network with other people in your industry, they can help mentor you in an informal or a formal way. And that really applies also to older alumni or older professionals, more seasoned professionals in your current firm. If you ask someone to be your mentor, or rather to mentor you, that's another great way to network. And then also knowledge of different industries. If you're not, like I said, currently happy with your own industry, or you just want to know how law works or how finance works, it's always great to have that well-rounded knowledge, and you can get that from networking with people in those industries. The other really big thing is not waiting. It's kind of like putting money in a savings account. You want to put money in now and have it grow when you actually need to go take that money out of the bank. If you start now, you can build your network and build your contacts at your own pace, and then by the time you actually need those from a pure business standpoint, you already have an established network. I think the phrase that you might hear with other more seasoned professionals is, oh, I've known John or I've known Sarah for 10 years or 20 years. And the reason that's true is because they started younger. So I would definitely encourage you to start right now, and ultimately, who doesn't want more friends? You can always use more contacts. So then the question becomes how to build your network. It's easier said than done, but there are a couple tips that I can share with you on how to start that process. First, identify your current quality relationships. And again, I go back to using that test of who would do you a favor and who would you do a favor for. Write those people down as your first tier relationships, and those would be your core of your network. And then from there, you can go on to second and third tiers, similar to what you would see on maybe a LinkedIn or a Facebook, people that you lost touch with but used to be friends with in undergrad, or people that you used to work with, or friends of friends. All of that applies, and those are also second and third degrees of your network. And then the next step is really the key, reaching out to those people and reconnecting with those people that you've lost touch with, or in the case of your good relationships right now, sitting down and actually having the intention of talking more professionally versus personally. The key there with anyone you sit down with, whether they're young, seasoned professional, good friend, or an acquaintance, is taking a genuine interest in what's going on in their life. Everyone's favorite topic is themselves, so ask questions about them. Ask questions about what's going on in their life and their work. And then the last one that I really like is getting involved, and I think that's a huge one. Specific to UCLA, there are several organizations that you can get involved with. UCLA Young Alumni Professionals is one. There's also regional alumni groups, so alumni groups in your neighborhood that throw events. You have the Young Alumni Development Council. The list just goes on of UCLA groups. But you can also get involved in networking groups within your industry, or those hobby or interest groups I mentioned, soccer leagues, book clubs, whatever it is, whatever you're passionate about, join something, and that's a great way to form a relationship because you already have a common interest with those people. And then the last one I would say is social media. And that one's a little more tricky, especially from a young alumni perspective, but don't be afraid to use LinkedIn or Facebook to introduce yourself to people and set up a time to get to know them face to face. The one caveat I'd say with LinkedIn or Facebook is if you're messaging someone that you recently met or have never met at all, then make sure you include a message in that invite. If I just receive a message that says, hey, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn, but has no context, then chances are I'm not going to connect with that person. So make sure you include a personal note. The last point on that is when it comes to networking with older professionals, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to connect with someone who's more senior. I know most of us feel intimidated that those more seasoned professionals don't want anything to do with us and we're a waste of their time. It's not true. Most of those people were in our shoes at some point and actually will identify with you and help you out if you ask. So don't be afraid to ask. And then the last real big bullet point that I have to talk about is how to make that network work for you. And one thing I'll just emphasize again is a lot of this has to do with face-to-face contact. So invite that person out to lunch, brunch, breakfast, drinks, a hike, whatever it is that the two of you like to do. Really make sure you touch with them face-to-face because that's how you're going to develop that relationship. And then there's 3 basic rules I would say with all of the people you connect with that you just want to keep in the back of your head. 1, make sure they know what you do for work and vice versa. And I know that sounds silly, but for most of us, we're really good at talking about what's going on in our personal lives. And I have friends personally that I don't really know what it is they do. So make sure you explain to them what you do, the company you work for, in plain English, and make sure they understand that for you as well. So that's a big one. The other really big one that always goes unasked is, how can I help you? Ask that question amongst the 2 of you, or if you're in a small group amongst the 3 of you. How can we help each other? Whether that's a personal favor, professional favor, maybe you can introduce someone. So ask that question. If the person's not asking you, you can always lobby that out. Here's who I'm looking to meet. Here's what I'm looking to do. Here are my goals. Do you know anyone that can help me, or can you help me yourself? So don't be afraid to be crystal clear with that. And then lastly, make sure that person knows you. If this is a new relationship, make sure they know you personally, know your interests, know your goals, and that will happen with time as you continue to meet up. And that really parlays into one of my final points, which is with all of this stuff, you have to be consistent. You can go and have coffee with someone, it can go great, and if you don't see that person for another year or another 6 months, that relationship will never truly grow. Just like any other relationship, you have to feed that relationship, water it, whatever analogy you want to use, and that means getting in touch with each other on a periodic basis. So make sure you find an excuse to reconnect with that person. What I do often is make plans during that first session. So if Nick and I were going to get coffee, I'd say, hey, Nick, I had a great time. Yeah, let's reconnect in a few months, and we'll go grab lunch. You don't have to have a real reason why. Most people will go along with that. So be consistent and make sure you develop your relationships. And then just to wrap up, it's a long-term game. So if you're a young alumni, don't expect to get instant returns, but just know that in a few years down the road, all of this will come back to you.
And Dustin, thank you for that, because we actually do periodically go and have coffee. So that's a good thing, because I want to make sure that things with young alumni professionals and that networking group is going well. I want to keep reminding the audience that you can always use the question and answer app, and we'll get to those questions once we've gone through kind of the other two moderators. But I definitely think that for millennials, Dustin is a wonderful representative of how to utilize their network. So let's go over to Jen, Jennifer Chow Bevan, who again is part of the Bruin family, but technically isn't an alumna, but that's okay. She's wearing blue and she looks fantastic. So we're going to go to Jen, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. I did wear blue for this occasion. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I really do feel like I am part of the Bruin family. I have been to Bruin Woods with my family 3 times, so I think I already know the 8 clap. And as Nick said, I was a career coach at UCLA Anderson for almost 6 years, where I coached the MBA students and also lectured on various topics on career management. I got my undergrad degree in mechanical engineering from MIT and my MBA from Wharton, and I really have leveraged networking my entire career. I mean, it has paved the way for me to make many career transitions. I started out in investment banking, went on to consulting, and then landed in LA to work in brand management at Neutrogena. And all of that really was through a lot of relationship building and networking, and then ultimately landed my role at Anderson through networking and exploring. I had always been interested in coaching and mentoring people, and got in touch with Eric Mockover, who some of you might know, who ran the Career Center back then, and just through networking kind of landed myself a job. So I'm a huge advocate of networking in my private practice. When I coach professionals through career transitions, a lot of what we work on is how to network, how to do it effectively, and in a way that's really authentic to you. Just in January, I presented at the UCLA Alumni Career Forum on how to leverage networking to advance your career. And it's interesting because, I mean, Dustin talked about this, a lot of people have a really kind of negative perspective about networking. They feel like it feels cheesy and schmoozy and self-promotional, and I completely get that. And I think, number one, if you're kind of feeling that way about networking, it's really useful to kind of alter your mindset around it a little bit. Just building on what Dustin said, networking is really about making friends, building relationships. And a lot of people kind of take the wrong approach, where they might look at networking as a need to do, like they might be in the middle of a job transition or about to start a job search, and that's when they start the networking. And oftentimes that's almost too late, because it takes a lot of time to cultivate and nurture these relationships. So one of the things I want to talk about is, start that, like Dustin said, start that networking early. Even if you're not in the position right now to make a job switch, or there's really no immediate need for networking, it does take time to like cultivate these relationships, and you'll have one coffee chat or informational interview, and then maybe you don't connect for a few months, but with repeated contact and touch-ins, you start building this relationship where people get to know you and your value, and they want to then become advocates for you. So I'm going to be talking a lot about, for the Bruins who are a little bit more seasoned, and this is still applicable to the young alumni, really how to leverage your network during a career transition. Whether you're kind of stuck, don't know what to do, or you kind of know you want to switch industries or functions, the job market right now is all about networking. There is a thing called the hidden job market. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. A lot of jobs are getting filled before they even get posted online. And I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that when you do apply for a job online, it's a big black hole. You know, any job posting that's getting posted right now is getting hundreds of applicants. So what that means is the HR people who are screening them are looking for reasons to like throw your resume in the trash can. So the way to get noticed and the way to get, you know, in front of the decision makers is really to have connections. People who are willing to talk to you, maybe introduce you to the right people, forward your resume along, and that really starts with networking. So, you know, I'm going to let Nick kind of prompt and kind of Q&A us, and we're open to a lot of questions. So I'm not going to go as deep, but really what I want to say is, like, you guys are so lucky, and that, can I do a screen share next? Should I show this? I'm going to see if this works. So you guys are UCLA alumni. The majority of you guys, I think almost 50% of UCLA alumni live in Southern California. So I'm going to pull this up. Can you guys see? Hopefully you can see this. This is a dashboard on LinkedIn that is so useful, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's basically the alumni dashboard. And the way to get to it is when you're on LinkedIn, you go under Connections, and you click on Find Alumni. And right here you see a dashboard where you can see where there are 270,000 UCLA alums who have noted their alums on LinkedIn, and 118,000 live in the greater LA area. That's almost 50%. So from a networking standpoint, you guys are already lucky if you're in LA or in Southern California looking to make connections. A lot of you are already here, which is awesome. So this is just a great dashboard. You can also, if you scroll to the right, you could see what industries and functions people work in, what they do. And so when you click into one of these things, for example, if I were to click into operations, I would see 13,000 people who are UCLA alums who work in operations. So this is just a great resource. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. Hopefully that works. Okay, can you guys see Nick nod? Yeah. We're trying to figure out the technology. So, you know, when I worked at Anderson as a career coach, I saw firsthand how the Bruin network really worked so well for so many of our students. I mean, you know, we would have MBA students who would be looking to meet other alumni who worked in, let's say, marketing. And let's take Nestle, for example. There are so many Anderson and UCLA alumni at all these big companies in LA that it's really easy to start your career exploration and networking, where you could just reach out to somebody who has a common affiliation as you, which is your alumni, you know, affiliation. So that's a great way to start that networking. The other thing I'm going to touch upon is, you know, building your network is not only for looking for a job, it's for advancing your own career. A lot of people kind of are naive in that they think, you know, my work speaks for itself. I'm going to just hunker down and do a really great job and like build an awesome Excel model. But sometimes that's not enough to get you noticed. So in today's kind of connected workplace, it's all about these relationships you're going to build even in the workplace. So, you know, make sure that you're not only doing a great job, but you're really showing your value across the organization. And that's not just in your own department and your own boss, but kind of building relationships with people outside of your immediate department. So that's a really important thing to talk about. And that leads to the mentorship opportunities you'll get. And then finally, you know, the do's and don'ts of networking, we can touch on that a little deeper later. You know, as you're building these relationships, you know, be curious. Be a good listener. It's not all about you talking about yourself, but the really awesome part about network is learning about other people, learning what they do, what their work is like, asking smart questions so that they want to advocate for you, that they feel like you're someone who has a lot to add, and maybe they would feel really great about helping, you know, forward your resume around. So to do that, you really have to be in a position where you're giving as much as you're taking. You know, a great way to further these networking relationships after a first coffee chat or a phone call I always find ways to stay on someone's radar. I might send them a useful article that might be relevant to them. I might do a Google search on something that they might be working on that's relevant to their business, and just do a little research and come up with things that might be useful for them. I will always introduce people to people in my own network that I think might benefit from that. So that just helps people see that, oh, this person's really helpful and useful and is wants to help and not just take. So I think that's a really important point. So I'm going to just stop now because I know we want to move on. So you guys can ask as many questions as you want. And Nick, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, perfect, Jennifer. And you know what? You hit a awesome point with the screen share. The majority of our network is in Southern California, and the numbers actually are better, right? So you saw that there's 200 and some odd thousand alumni that are in LinkedIn, but in actuality, it's about 70% of our alumni live in the greater Los Angeles area. So not, as you can tell, not everybody's in LinkedIn, but as we have the numbers here, it's about 70% or so live in the Southern California, greater Los Angeles area. So for those of you that are local, that you have opportunity here to network with a large group of Bruins. So with that, let me move over to Michael. And Michael, go ahead and kind of tell everybody kind of your story and your thoughts.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here, part of the team today. Because I'm third on the list, it's going to be easy for me because most of the points brought up by everybody, I'm going to be either reiterating or bringing up some additional ones as well. My background with UCLA, I was class of 1978. I have the honor of being both North Campus and South Campus. I was biochemistry and economics. Subsequent to my time at UCLA, and I actually have the honor of saying that I took the chemistry series and the calculus series using a slide rule. If you want to see one of those, they're on display in Bolter Hall. But you know, all kidding aside, when I graduated from UCLA, these new things called computers were invented, and I was attracted by that and got my master's in computer science and then an MBA after leaving UCLA. But as Nick has certainly brought up, my involvement with the university has been very strong over a 20 or 30 year period of time. There has been well over 300 students worked with over the years, which has been just a phenomenal experience. The real reason for that, it's all about the Bruin network. It's all about the Bruin family. You will find that there are very, very key alumni who are very, very willing to be engaged with all of you. And it really is, you know, seize the moment, seize the opportunity. Every session that you're in, you know, not only with just Bruins but with others, you know, it is your opportunity to ask what they do, to have them tell them your you know, not only your story but their story. Get engaged. You know, obviously with Bruins it's easy. All you have to do is literally say, tell me about your Bruin experience and tell me about your time on campus and tell me about your time after you left the campus. We all have a story to tell. I think the reality is all of us as alumni would never predict what has happened to any of us. So you know, those are always interesting things to hear from anybody. It's also very easy to engage. I'll show you how easy it is. michael.jedlicka@disney.com. Jedlicka. There are 200 people on this call. I expect all 200 of you to email me. Will I respond? Absolutely. Is it that easy? Yes, it is. Should you take the opportunity? Yes, you should. Why would you not take this opportunity? I don't know. You simply, it should be that easy for each one of you. So I think all of us want to get to the Q&A because we're really anxious to start engaging with all of you that are on this call and kind of taking it from there.
So I'm already emailing you right now, Michael, just so you know. So you'll get an email from me for sure. Aside from all the work stuff that we talk about sometimes with the board, but I do want to open up a question. I'll go right back to Michael, and with the panelists with you guys, if you guys can keep your answers as quickly as as succinctly as possible, so we can get to as many questions because it seems like there's some good questions out there. So with your background, Michael, there's a question out there. It says, what is the best advice for finding a great mentor at work? I know you've done a lot of mentoring with students, but is there a parlay? How do you parlay that with those that are a little bit younger than you at Disney?
Well, I think, and I think everybody on the panel can certainly allude to this. Within the companies now, there are a lot of official mentor programs that many companies have. Obviously, that's the importance of and the value of the mentor program to companies themselves. So first and foremost, if those exist within your company, get yourself signed up. If not, I always call it, look to those in the company that for whatever reason are attractive to you. Why would you want to emulate their experience? Why would you want to involve in a dialogue with them? It should be fairly easy to just reach out to them and begin that. I mean, honestly, if they don't respond, move on to the next person who does. But it should be that easy. I know certainly here at work for me, it is that easy, and we condone it. We want it to happen with regularity. We have official programs, but we have unofficial programs, so it should be that easy.
Okay, and I love that, actually. It should be that easy. Most companies are getting better at the mentoring piece. So if anyone else has something to add, if Dustin, you have something to add, go ahead and jump in here.
Yeah, just one quick thing to add on from a young alumni perspective. I think Michael's point is great, but as a young alumni, you can be bold and ask that person out to lunch or coffee on your own. Taking that initiative. I think most people automatically assume that the more senior person is going to be the one to treat or the one to initiate that contact. If you take some proactive initiative yourself, you'll find a lot of great results.
Okay, Jennifer?
I'd love to add to the mentor conversation. I mean, I think one thing to know for mentor-mentee relationships is, it's really organic. I mean, there are companies that nicely assign mentors and mentees, but I think ultimately it's the mentee's job to kind of demonstrate your value, and it kind of for someone to really be a mentor, they need to take a real vested interest in you, and they see something in you they want to cultivate. You know what I mean? So aside from like one coffee chat, how do you nurture that relationship so over time this mentor thinks of you when he sees a really cool project come up in his company, or maybe that this mentor thinks of you when there's a job opening? And really, to get to that point, throughout your relationship, you kind of have to be demonstrating your value, and whether it's showing them what you're doing at work, like how are you having an impact at work, really asking smart questions. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on the part of the mentee that sometimes people don't think about. They think, oh, I just got assigned to a mentor, he's my mentor. But really, for this person to really be your mentor in the true sense, they have to find something in you they want to cultivate.
Perfect. And Michael, could you let's say your email address one more time?
michael.jedlicka@disney.com. And I will respond. I mean, it's just something I'm very proud of. The points that have been brought up by everybody are certainly very key. There's no question that when you do send me an email, my first series of responses back to any student or anyone, another alumnus or whatever it may be, how do you want to engage? How do we want to begin this dialogue? It really is a two-way street. So I think you need to be somewhat prepared that those are going to be the questions that are going to be asked, which is not necessarily all the things that I can do for you. What are you looking for? What are you challenged by? What are your interests? What's going on here? What's in your heart? What do those are the questions that are meaningful. So I would say be somewhat prepared that we're going to ask you for your elevator pitch. The things that are important to you and why. What are the projects you work on that are most important? How are you most challenged? Where do you see yourself going in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? These are all the questions that you're going to have with any mentor-mentee relationship. So you need to kind of come in prepared to do so.
And knowing Michael like I do, and I'm talking to everybody else that's not on the panel, you need to be prepared. If you're going to email Michael, be prepared for this type of dialogue. Because very quickly he gets to kind of what your interests are, and if you're serious about actually developing a mentor relationship. To the panel, I have a question, and I think I'll start with Jen with this. Is what is your best language for asking for any introduction, and what do you say to people when you want that person to introduce you?
Okay, that's a great question. You know, so say like you're having a conversation with someone and it's a networking, you know, you're having a coffee chat maybe. And one of your key things to get out of networking is don't leave that conversation without finding out who else you could speak to, especially if you're in the middle of a job search or career exploration. Who else could I speak to learn more? And a lot of times people will be very generous with their contact and say, oh, you need to connect with so-and-so. My main advice is someone might be very generous to offer to make that connection, but you need to do the legwork. You need to tee up an email for them. You know, I have a blog I wrote on my website. It's pathrelaunch.com, detailing an entire template on how to ask for an introduction. So go there to look for like the detailed blog. But what I recommend is whenever I make recommendations for people, I ask them to send me like a blurb. Whether it's, Dear Jen, thanks so much for the introduction, but I want to know what your story is so that when I make that introduction, I'm not making your story up for you. I want you to do that legwork because you're the only one who knows what your story is, you know, the backstory, your skills, your experiences, and why you want to talk to this person. So what I'll do is someone will send me that blurb. I will then make that email introduction, CCing the person I'm introducing to and the person asking, connecting them over email with the blurb about them, and then it's up to you, the person who's asking, to kind of follow up, you know, with that person. So there really is etiquette around if someone's going to do you the favor of opening up their network to you, you got to be proactive. You know, don't wait for them to make that intro. Sometimes it's not going to happen. People are really busy. People want to be helpful, but ultimately when it comes to executing, they get busy and they don't have time to be building your network for you. So I always say to tee it up for them with this way that I just explained. So you want to give them your story so that when they introduce you, they know what to say.
Good point.
And then one other thing, if someone's introducing you, don't forget to follow up with them and keep them in the loop. You know, so that's the other way of showing, you know, being gracious that someone just offered to introduce you, but also keep them in the loop so they're invested in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's exploring a new career, you know, looking to kind of for other opportunities. So keep that person in the loop. Like drop them a line thanking them for the intro, but also telling them how that conversation went. Like people really want to know, you know, how it pays out for you. So keep people in the loop.
Anyone else in the panel? Okay. Well, then I'll go. Michael, do you want to go help that answer?
Well, I think it was kind of touched on, but it's true. You know, we're also operating for all of you as facilitators. So that's part of the reason why we ask those questions, which is it's not about what you can gain through the discussion, the relationship with any one of us. It's also by really discovering what you're looking for and why. Back to that connected universe, we know many, many people, and we are happy to help facilitate those discussions, you know, with others. So it really is about, and I think that's part of the overall experience, is we all really relish that connected universe, who is primary, who's secondary, who's tertiary across all that, and making sure that you're in contact with the right people to satisfy your goals and directionally where you want to go. Because we take a lot of pride in being part of that sort of process. So it's less about what each one of us can individually bring to the table. It's about us facilitating all of that on behalf of all of you. And then you in turn do that when the next Bruin reaches out to you. It really becomes that just sort of connected universe that you know grows over time. I mean, it will never stop.
Okay. I think the next question we'll go to is from Danica Dustin. As a young professional, what are the best practices for networking? So I would imagine that would first go to Dustin.
Sure. Yeah, there are so many, but the way to break it down simply, I think you're hearing the theme of being proactive. So the question is how, and you know, I'll kind of go back to two things that we've talked about. One, getting involved in things, and then two, the introductions. So even as a young alumni, amongst your own peer group, you can also make introductions. If you think about the person in high school or college who was everyone's best friend or the matchmaker of your friend group, that person was one of the most popular people in your social network because they were good at connecting to people, right? So the more you give, the more you get back in return. I would reach out to people again and connect with them over lunch or coffee or drinks, and then figure out what they want and make that connection for them. And then the other one is getting involved in groups. So you can get involved in UCLA groups. If you go online, you can go to meetup.com or just Google various networking groups, and then find something you're passionate about, because a lot of the great connections you make don't necessarily come from strict business environments. I like to surf and ride my bike, as you can see behind me. So I've made connections with people that I went and did those things with.
Yeah, can I add to that, Nick?
Absolutely. Please do.
And these are best practices for anyone, not just millennials. So one thing that I often recommend is, if you are networking for a job transition or exploration of new jobs, you might be networking with a lot of people. Like, you might be reaching out to many Bruins, maybe even non-Bruins, people at work, friends of friends. I always recommend keeping track of, make it really structured, because it can get unwieldy. You're having conversations, coffees, you're applying to jobs. Have a mechanism, and I often make people do an Excel spreadsheet where they track who are they talking to, what's their company list, what companies are they interested in, who do they know, what are their action steps, have they scheduled a phone call, have they sent an email. So it's just really nice to have like a structured way of documenting all of your activity, and that way you're motivated to keep going, The other kind of best practice is don't forget to send thank you notes. Like, I'm such a stickler. Networking is about giving and being gracious and showing gratitude, because people are putting themselves out there to help you, right? So I think it's so important, and we stress this so much at UCLA Anderson when our students were doing networking with alumni. You gotta send thank you notes, and it has to be within 24 hours. So if you email Michael and Michael graciously has a call with you, you better be sending him a thank you note pretty soon, because he's going to know if you don't. I'll give you some anecdotes. Like, we had alumni who would tell us and would email us and let us know who sent thank you notes and who didn't. So recruiters are paying attention to this kind of etiquette. It's just a sign of your own social graces, and it tells a lot about a person, right? So make sure you're sending the thank you notes after a coffee chat, informational, first round interview, and any kind of, it's just another way to stay in touch with people. And it's okay, you don't have to worry about writing a handwritten note. Everything is email now, and people file their emails, so it's better to do it by email so they have kind of a record of it. And sometimes people even email those thank you notes to their colleagues. They'll be like, FYI, she wrote a really nice thank you note. The last thing I would say is, obviously these are all, the audience here are UCLA alumni, and you guys have this affinity with each other. You have something in common. I would say don't get too casual. Even though you guys are Bruins and you've partied together and maybe you went to Bruin Woods together, networking is still professional, and every interaction you're having with someone, even though it's not an interview, you better believe they're forming first opinions. And first impressions really matter. So any type of interaction you have with someone is going to be evaluative, and someone's making a snap judgment about, do I want to introduce her to that VP at Disney? I don't know if I want to put my name on the line for So you got to think, like, it's really important. I'd love you guys to chime in on that. You want to treat every interaction as if you're being evaluated, like, be professional. I'm not saying be overly formal. Like, you want to show who you are and be real and connect with people on that level, but you got to be professional.
Well, let me jump in on that, and I agree 100%. And that's, I think, more towards our millennial group, because I think sometimes our millennial group gets so used to growing up with social media and interacting on their phone that sometimes they forget that if they're going to interact with someone that's probably part of a slightly different generation, that they need to make sure that they keep it professional. And as far as keeping spreadsheets, and you know exactly where I'm going to go here, Michael, Michael's a guy that does keep spreadsheets with every interaction that he has with whomever he keeps. So if you guys do email him, believe it, it's going in his book, or whatever you want to call it. Right, Michael?
It is. And the email is saved. and the topic we discussed is saved. I mean, part of it is because I will surprise a lot of people that have reached out to me and email them a month later and say, how's it going? Our last conversation was this. I just wanted to touch base, and they'll be absolutely surprised that I still remember it. I still remember the dialogue. I still remember where and how we met. I mean, all this, whether I think it's a millennial or you're, you know, an older alumnus like myself, I always characterize it as all of us have great stories to tell, and all of us have made, you know, great choices, some good, some bad, whatever it may be. I love having that dialogue with everybody I meet. How did you get where you are? What choices did you make? Why did you make that choice? Was it a good one or not a good one? These discovery phases throughout your career never stop. They really don't. So you always think of it as, you know, it's something you do early in your career, but not something you do throughout your career, and that's not true at all. I mean, so I think in many cases I always tell whoever, certain companies are very attractive, certain cultures, certain countries, you know, whatever it may be, we all made choices in our lives for particular reasons. I just love engaging and having that conversation because it influences the future decisions that I make. Because most of us made choices for some reason, some by happenstance, some by plan, but it's just fascinating to always be involved with it, and that should be a rich part of the mentor-mentee experience.
So another question from Sean O'Connell. He asks for any suggestions for pre-millennials that are re-emerging into the job market after not working professionally for several years, excuse me. Jennifer, I'll probably start with you there, and we'll probably go to Michael, and maybe not Dustin since he's not a pre-millennial.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's a great question. I actually do a lot of work in my coaching practice with women who have taken time off. You know, they're moms, they've off-ramped from the workforce for a while, and now trying to re-enter. So I think the key is, depending on your gap, your break from the workforce, you know, what have you been doing to demonstrate your skills? Is it volunteering, perhaps at your children's school, running a fundraiser? Like, think about all the projects that you've done where you have leveraged some key skills of yours so that you can, your resume isn't one big gap. So I think that's number one. And if you are that pre-millennial thinking of taking a break from the workforce, I would say you want to be staying engaged through, you know, meaty volunteer projects, you know, whatever those skill sets you have that you want to keep sharp, you know, whether it's taking classes or doing pro bono projects for a nonprofit, those are great ways to continue to like show your skills, show that you're engaged, so that when you are ready to return, you have something to talk about, you know, in an interview. You know, and so I think, you know, just making sure that you stay relevant, and it doesn't mean you need to be working 40 hours a week or 70 hours a week. You could be doing, you know, part-time projects for even 10 hours, 5 hours a week, and still get some good bullet points on your resume. So I think of it from the perspective of what's going on your resume, get some good bullet points that showcase skills, think about the skills that are widely needed now, you know, cross-functional teamwork and leadership, communication skills, leadership. Those are all skills that are going to translate across many different functions and industries. So those are the skill sets you want to keep sharp.
Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, all those points are very valid and very correct. I think on a pragmatic side of this, as we all know, every one of those jobs are listed somewhere. The job descriptions are made. The talents are listed. The secondary talents, the tertiary talents are all there. So the information that you need is at your disposal. The reality is going to become, the longer that you're out of the workforce, how do you make yourself relevant in terms of what these new positions are, you know, have become, and they are moving fast. There's no question that all of us see that it is evolving quickly. I think one of the ways to kind of get past do I have the skills directly or not, you can show your interest by shadowing people. You can show your interest by doing, you know, pro bono work, by being involved in many ways. In many cases, we're looking for the people that have the not only the ability to transition to it, but the desire. And I think if you show both, you're going to be one step ahead of the others. So being current with what's being offered out there is important. Some may involve classes, some may involve other stuff, but certainly, I think Jennifer's points are good, which is, but all that information's in front of you. You'd be doing yourself a disservice to say, I'm going to go and look at it 2 years from now. It's a type of thing where you should be looking at regularly.
So really quickly, we have a question from Susan Reed asking Jennifer, could you please give the address of your blog? And if you could do that really fast, and then we'll move on to another question.
Yes, it's pathrelaunch.com. pathrelaunch.com, and then you can look on the nav menu for the blog.
Susan, thank you for that. And the next question from Christy Peterson will go to Dustin. It says, where is the next UCLA YAP, Young Alumni Professionals, meeting or event?
Sure, great question. So UCLA YAP has events periodically, typically once or twice a month, depending on the specific month. The best way to find out is actually to go to the UCLA Young Alumni Professionals Facebook page, and I'll show you that page right now if I can get it to work here. So here it is. It's just facebook.com/UCLA Young Alumni Professionals. If you like our page, you'll get all the information. There's some events coming up here in July, so you can check that out. You can also subscribe to the email list, which is UCLA Young Alumni Professionals @gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate it. Let's see, I'm hoping I don't mess up this name. It's Dolce Hakeem, and I hope I don't mess that up, and I apologize if I have. But the question is, what would be some tips when keeping in touch with people you meet? Is it okay to send out holiday emails, or if they recently got promoted, send out a congratulations email? So let's start with Michael on that one. We'll go down the way.
Actually, repeat the question. I'm not sure if I fully understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be some tips when keeping in touch with the people that you meet? Is it okay to send out like holiday cards or emails, or if they recently got promoted, send out congratulations emails?
I think that's going to depend, to be honest. I think you certainly have to sort of measure where you are in the relationship with that person. So to some cases, just sort of blasting a response out to everybody you know probably isn't going to be the most effective way for you to engage. So I think if you've reached a point with certain individuals and mentors and in that relationship, you're very comfortable having that level of dialogue, it's very, very good to do so. It's almost that, hey, let's keep the dialogue going. Let's touch bases. Here's my latest status. Here's what's going on. I think it depends. I wouldn't use one strategy for everybody that's on your list. I think you have to almost custom tailor it to just where you are in that relationship with each person.
Yeah, can I chime in?
I was going right to you. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many different ways you could stay in touch and on someone's radar. And I agree with Michael, like, gauge that relationship. But if it's somebody that maybe you don't talk to a lot and you see that they got promoted and that shows up on LinkedIn, by all means, congratulate them, right? LinkedIn has made it really easy to stay connected and on someone's radar. So, like that they got a promotion or say happy birthday. I'm gonna share this slide. This is actually one of the slides I did for the presentation I had in January, and this is like a few pointers on how to stay in touch. And this is for anyone you're networking with, and sending them an article that might be relevant to them, saying congratulations on a work anniversary. Find a linkage with them. What do you have in common with them, so that when you do reach out and get in touch, there's a reason for you to reach out. Like Michael said, updating on progress is always a great way to stay in touch with someone. Thanking them, making a connection with someone else in your network. And if you're concerned as to when you can follow up, I always say just ask for permission. Ask, if you have a coffee chat, ask them, is it okay if I touch base with you in a couple weeks? That way you kind of get the okay from them that they're okay to continue the conversation.
Okay, great. Now, knowing that we only have we only have 5 minutes left, which I can't. I'm just looking down, or maybe even 4 minutes left. Last question, if it's for everybody, and then I'll do a quick close. If you can briefly discuss kind of from Danica, actually, Dawson, would you elaborate on how best to leverage our network through, and when I mean our network, probably the UCLA network through LinkedIn, especially, I just lost it, hold on, especially the Bruin network. So how would you best do that, Dustin? And let's go Dustin, Michael, and then Jennifer, and then I'll close this thing up.
So it looks like the question is specifically regarding LinkedIn, and when it comes to that, I would just go back to sending a personal message. Obviously, it helps if you met them in person at least one time, but if that's at a UCLA event, I do this myself a ton. If I met Michael or Jen at a UCLA alumni function, I'd send them a LinkedIn request with a personal message. Hey, Michael, hey, Jen, it was great to meet you at that event. Let's keep in touch. If you can reference something specific that you talked about, if you talked about UCLA sports, if you talked about anything specific, that's great too, and I think that applies to emails as well. If you've never met this person and it's a first-time intro on LinkedIn, be upfront about that so that they're not scared off and it's not awkward.
Okay, great. Michael?
Yeah, I actually agree with that. If you're going to use LinkedIn, as we all know, LinkedIn creates that standard message that goes out to everybody, which is, I'd like to connect via LinkedIn. That doesn't tell me anything. The person that's actually added a little bit to it and says, it was a pleasure meeting you last night, or I saw your bio and I was intrigued, or whatever it may be, I'm going to be more engaged with that request because, honestly, most of us probably receive 10 to 30 requests a day. We don't accept every one of them, so I think that's key to it. But the other part I would say is that for each one of these, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever the form would be, don't use the same strategy for each one of those tools. You almost have to kind of custom apply each one based on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of leveraging LinkedIn is such an amazing tool that joining groups is a great way to stay engaged. You should find the UCLA alumni group and be part of that, engage in conversation on that group. And it really depends on what your career goals are. You can leverage LinkedIn in ways to build up your own kind of profile and thought leadership. If you're trying to show that you have a certain skill or a certain point of view, you can blog on LinkedIn, and then everyone in your network sees kind of your thought pieces. So LinkedIn is just so incredible. I also think it's a really #1 tool for researching jobs. Like reading job descriptions and exploring other industries and functions just by doing an advanced keyword search on certain job functions or industries that you're interested in, and immediately you get certain job postings that you can read, and you can also see who else in your network or immediate or second or third degree network is affiliated with that company. So everyone should be leveraging LinkedIn to its greatest extent. And I think, you guys, all this networking is great for building your connections with other Bruins, but think broadly. It's not just connecting with Bruins, it's connecting beyond kind of your Bruin network too, and you can leverage a lot of these tips for that as well.
Well, the one great thing about being a moderator is I actually get to say kind of the last little bit. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much to Dustin, to Jen, and to Michael, especially Michael being so bold as to give out your email. But I also want to kind of add a little bit, from my perspective and from what I hear and what I give advice about networking is sometimes it's just good to ask for help. When you ask in a very sincere way and you're legitimately looking to either transition your job or look to how to become the VP and go to the senior VP, and you're legitimately asking for help, very few times are people going to say no, especially if they're a UCLA Bruin, especially if they're within a group of friends that you know. Asking for help is not a hard ask, and it goes back to what Dustin said right from the beginning. If you can ask someone to help you move or take you to the airport, you can ask someone to help you professionally, and don't be afraid to kind of just ask for help. It's like I said, in the business world, it's not a very difficult ask. With that said, Okay, again, I'd like to really thank Dustin, Jennifer, and Michael. We will have actually we'll send out some links after this this hangout. I would call it a discussion, but that's way too formal. It's a hangout, and I want to make sure that our audience knows that we have a UCLA Alumni LinkedIn where we can do everything that we just talked about with that last question with LinkedIn. You can reference and really search as many Bruins as you can. Kind of gets a little creepy, but don't make it creepy. The other thing is we have our UCLA Alumni Facebook. We also have the UCLA Alumni Career Programs Facebook, Twitter. I'm sorry, that really keeps you in the link with all these types of programs. There is developing programming that we're trying to make sure that we're connecting our alumni to not only to campus but back to their alumni base. Right? We know as a university that that's something that is very, very important to you as an alumni, and we want to make sure that we can deliver that. And people like Jen are going to be part of this kind of this plan moving forward in ways that we can connect our alumni together, help you get career information, as well as Michael and Dustin with young alumni professionals. So with that, I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. I also want to thank everyone who's going to go onto the UCLA YouTube channel and see this, tomorrow or a year from now. Again, we're doing the best that we can to bring this type of career content to our alumni. We want to make sure that we're providing this to you. If you guys have any comments for us, feel free to contact us at Alumni Career Programs at alumni.ucla. And so we will be able to kind of create that dialogue. You can also contact us with, through Twitter and the Facebook as well, and LinkedIn, and we'll definitely get back to you. So with that, we've now gone over our time, and I want to again just kind of close by saying thank you very much, and go Bruins.
Thank you so much.